Welcome everyone to our live video activities for multilingual families. It's where we share ideas to help you foster your languages in a fun and compelling way. In this video, we're going to share with you an important thing about how to pronounce our names right. So for those of you who don't know us, I'm Yoshito Mori,
and I'm Multilingual. Hello, everyone. So like Yoshito just mentioned yesterday, and like we usually do, let's just say we publish videos regularly on your channel about fostering our children speaking, reading and writing in the home languages and others. Today we wanted to have a discussion actually also with you. You can participate in the comment section on YouTube. And actually, it's about a topic that is quite suited for the beginning of the academic year. I know we are already almost at the end of this month, and this part of the world, all children are back to school. But yes, like you said before, Yoshito, we would like to focus on how to pronounce our names properly, or how we would expect them to be pronounced. Because I think it might have happened to you that some people would mispronounce your name. And I personally usually don't mind if my name is mispronounced, if the person makes the effort actually of finding how to pronounce it correctly. So they may ask even, how do you pronounce your name? Is this right? Is this not right? But it can also happen that people just pronounce it in whatever way they want, maybe with an exaggerated accent. And that makes me cringe. For example, when someone once pronounced my name, it's very short, right? It's U-T-E. You cannot really make so many mistakes, I think, but actually you can. So someone who said ut, and I didn't even understand that they were talking about me. They were saying, what is ut saying? And I said, who is that person? I was looking around, and actually it was me. So I never heard myself being called ut. Because with the E is silent in French, so why not? Or someone saying oot or oot.
Wow.
I was surprised. Or ute. Or other versions, but actually I find it quite interesting to see how many different versions of such a short name can be done. But what I like the most is when people just ask, how do you pronounce the name? If someone is not familiar with how to pronounce that name, my name or whatever other name it is, because it gives me a little bit the sense of, I'm being acknowledged as someone having another name, or also I acknowledge others who have a name that I might not be so familiar with pronouncing. What do you think, Yoshito, about that?
I resonate a lot about like how maybe the liberty, I guess, people taking sometimes. And like you, I don't really mind when people make mistakes, as long as like it's not to mock me or anything like that, because I know that in some languages it can be difficult to pronounce some sounds, even if for us it's like normal because we grew up with. But as I said, I don't like when people take liberties. So the type of liberties I don't like is when they think that I had once a neighbor a long time ago who told me, I'm never going to remember your name. So, and after they just call me mate or boss. I had once someone who told me, who started calling me Josh, like the English name, because they thought, okay, Yoshito, Josh, so I'm just going to call you Josh. Without asking me, they were just taking liberties. So, I don't really like when people just try to simplify it without our consent. Yeah.
I fully agree. And when people struggle with pronouncing it or getting it right, and then they decide, oh, let me just call you whatever. And I say, no, actually, I have this name. Please keep calling me this way. And I, when I was at school, I had one friend in my class. She also had the same name as I have. I mean, there were so many Annas, there were Marias, there were Christinas, etc. But this teacher, as the other Ute, looked very similar to me. We were not twins, of course, but we were looking very similar. And he had some troubles with distinguishing between one and the other. And he asked me if he could call me with my second name. And my second name is Katarina. But I don't respond to the name Katarina. And he was always getting upset when he was calling Katarina and I wouldn't reply. So mispronouncing a name is one thing, and then choosing another one instead, just for the person's, I don't know, whatever reasons, is also something that I really don't like. Or someone who says, okay, that's Ute, what is the name in our language? What would it be in Italian? Or what is the equivalent of your name in French or English or so? And sometimes then you say, well, it doesn't exist. Yeah. Like a friend of mine who has a very common name of Maria, they call her Mary. Or my daughters, they're called Lucia and Alice. It's Alice and Lucy.
Yeah.
They don't mind. It's their friends who call them so, but yes, there is an equivalent of the name, but actually your name sounds a little bit different. But then it depends on us how we react to this. So usually I'm not that critical about how people pronounce my name, like I said, but it's more about why they do not pronounce it the way it should be pronounced. Yeah, they even
that reminds me of something when you said like people just trying to use the equivalent. So Yoshito, there is no equivalent in other languages. But I know that, for example, in French, in English, and in Japanese, it sounds slightly different. So in Japanese, it's Yoshito. In French, it's Yoshito. But in English, people say Yoshito. So it's slightly different each time. But I remember once when I was 10, I went to a summer camp where there were loads of children from all over the world. And I remember someone calling me Yoshida. And so, because for him, the toe became da, I heard it da. I said, it's not Yoshida, it's Yoshito. And then he said, but that's what I'm saying. And I got a bit upset. And I went to a friend and I said, but you can't call people differently because you just want to. But his name was, he was German and his name was Peter. And so and he said, but in English, people call me Peter. In French, people call me Pierre. I don't mind. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, true.
Yes.
There are names that change a bit more than Yoshito, Yoshida. But I think when we grew up multilingual, we're used to certain modifications due to our family members or where we grow up. But when it's another pronunciation, it might hurt us a bit more, thinking it's not our name.
Yes, I think the boundaries for me, or the point where I am less accepting other kind of pronunciations, is when people really suggest a completely different name, or one that is really different. Or Uta in German, there is also Uta with an A at the end. Or Uta with 2 T, but it's another name. So sometimes I say, well, make the effort and just read the name and try to remember it. But yes, I fully agree. That's the difference. And I would like to know, those who are following us, if they would like to share maybe their experience with this in the comment section.
So that if you just want to say hi, because we're testing this out. It's the first time I'm doing the live, so I'm not really sure if I'm in the right place to see comments. So if you want to leave some comments or say hi as well, that would be great.
I don't see many comments at the moment, but I have also some troubles with my other computer here. But anyways.
I think we have 3 people following us at the moment, live. Let's see if there are messages.
And shall we talk about when it comes to introducing ourselves with our names? Because, when I introduce myself, or I think in many countries like China, Korea, and East Asia, and also in Swiss German, actually. This is not mentioned in many articles. You would introduce yourself to a new person as an adult. We're talking about adults at the moment. You would introduce yourself with first your family name and then with your given name. So I would be Limacher Ribold Ute. Hi, nice to meet you. You would then say, yes, Shimamori.
That's an interesting thing.
Yoshito.
Yeah. Because in Japan, I don't use my French name, but I let you finish and then
okay. Yes, and I was surprised, actually. I didn't know that this was also common in a European country. But when I met my husband, he's Swiss German, he would introduce himself with other adults or colleagues that he didn't know yet very well with Limacher Rolf. It's his name. And I said, why are you doing this? It sounds so odd. It seems out of place. But actually, it's how you do it. And then once you know the person, you say Rolf Limacher or Rolf or Ute. You know, you are on a first name basis, or you switch to the first name first.
Yeah.
And that is something that is also interesting to see. In what context you introduce yourself with what name first and what name second. Yeah. But
just for that, so what I was saying before is, so I have a name for my dad and a name for my mom. But when I go to Japan, I don't say, so it's Dorman Shimamori, but I don't say the Dorman part. I just say Shimamori Yoshito. And I don't know, I think I'm not sure. I think maybe it's because I thought that it was difficult for Japanese people. It wasn't a Japanese name, so it was difficult to, it would sound weird. So I just kept the Japanese name. But yeah, I have a friend who's half French, half Japanese. He says both his names, so French and Japanese. So yeah, I guess it's I just chose to do it at some point, but I don't know why.
Yeah. I used to, when I was a teenager, and my family name was Ribold, with an IE, and that's a combination that it's a long E for in German, but you don't find it in Italian names. But there is an Italian name that is very similar without the E, the I, yes, but not the E, with an I at the end, Riboldi. So sometimes I would say Ute Riboldi, which is much easier, because otherwise Riboldo, why is your name ending with a consonant? That is so odd. Okay, Ute is already a foreign name. I look foreign, I look different, and then you have to explain all the rest. But anyway, sometimes I just wanted to cut short and say, Riboldi is good as well. When someone was, how do you pronounce your family name? I said, just say Riboldi. I will know who you're talking about. That's fine. Yeah,
I think on both sides, there's on one side, we don't like when people just call us don't pronounce our names properly. But some other times, we are those thinking, okay, I don't want to bother with them. I'm just going to say the easiest way for them.
Yeah.
So, and also, I guess it's maybe even more so when we're teenagers, because we don't want maybe to attract too much attention on us or be too different.
Oh no, yeah. And then maybe you have also these names. I have this from many Asian friends of mine. They have a Western name and then the other name. And then sometimes they say, just call me, I don't know, Christina, just call me Catherine, just call me Anna. They prefer, instead of being the one that you focus on the name and you try to pronounce it right, which personally I find it's a sign of respect for me. I want to be able to call you the name that you have been called by your parents, and that is your name. And I would have troubles with responding to a name that wasn't given to me since very young. But I understand that sometimes it's easier to just say, okay, I'm the Anna, and that's fine. And just call me like that. So having two names, depending on the setting, depending on the context where you are, that can also be quite handy sometimes for certain situations. Shall I share something? Because I have some activities or something that I would like to share with you. So I have an article, a post on my site, because just to explain why I'm going to share this. Very often when I encounter people who have a name that I struggle with pronouncing, I try to transcribe it with a phonetical alphabet. And there is the International Phonetical Alphabet. And I have an article, a post about this on my site. I hope you can see it here. Yes, where I explain also where these sounds are articulated. It's a little bit complicated here in this kind of picture. Here you see how the vowels are, where the vowels more or less are articulated and where the consonants. I'm not going to give you a lesson on phonetics and phonology, but just to if you scroll down, you get to this kind of trapeze of the vowel trapeze. And if you click on it, you get on this side. And now we can, these ads always on every side. I really don't like them. But if you click on one of these sounds, just, I will be silent so you hear the difference. So you can find out a little bit how these sounds are pronounced. So you listen to what the person is saying, how they are pronouncing their name, and then you go back, maybe you let them repeat the name and you find the right one. It's a nice thing to do and to find out how the name of the person is actually maybe transcribable with IPA, with the International Phonetic Alphabet. And here you have the different consonants. So for example, the you will see that they always accompany the consonant sound with the A, which is the openest vowel that we have, in order to give it some context, okay? Because otherwise consonants are usually pronounced without a voice. And so if you would say you wouldn't hear what the person is saying. So if you put it in a context with vowels, either before or after, like in
sa, asa,
you can see the difference with, for example,
za, aza.
Yeah. So the one is voiceless, the other one is voiced. And so you can go through this, and I find it always a nice exercise to do, and then you can transcribe it if you wish. And yes,
I remember I had so when I was at university, I was studying phonetics and phonology, and I remember this teacher. So we had two students who were Chinese, and so there was another teacher. She was making a lot of effort to try to pronounce their names. And at the beginning of each lesson, when she was doing the register, she was trying to say the name, but it wasn't this. And she was checking, am I saying properly today? And she was saying, not really, it's more like this. But this phonetic teacher, he wrote it down. So he was saying, can you repeat? And he was writing it down. And then when he was saying it was the correct pronunciation. So that it does help a lot. I think because we have visual representation of the sounds. It's not just random. We can, like, especially he knew like a lot of ways how the sounds are pronounced. So for him, it was a good way to rely on something written to pronounce it properly. But the other teacher, just by relying on her ear, couldn't pronounce it.
Couldn't, yeah. And I mean, it's another alphabet, I know, but it's actually an international phonetic alphabet. So this is, if you can pronounce all the names around the world with this alphabet. So I would really wish that it would be once taught at school, because it really helps us to pronounce new words and to make sense of the different sounds, etc. For example, for me, I'm trying to learn Korean, but I really struggle with the different sounds. I hear the difference from knowing from French. There you have different pronunciations. But sometimes with Korean, I think they are mixing them up, but they still mean the same thing, but this is a completely other chapter. I think we're not going to get there. Don't let me start with that. But yes, but it helps also. So, for example, the typically German way to pronounce the th in English, right?
Yeah.
Setting, or maybe also Italian way or the French way to this is not very easy with the accentuation and the s instead of the.
Yeah.
And here it can help you if you know how you have to put the tongue and where to let the air go through, and then also just practice in different contexts. It's like a muscle, and if we train our mouth with everything, then we get used to a broader variety of sounds. But I would like to do a little game with you. I mean, I did something. Sorry, Yoshito, I chose your name first to share. It is a website that you can actually use with, let me see, where is it? Yeah, here. It's a website that's called howtopronounce.com, and I entered the name of Yoshito, and let us hear the different entries so people can get there and record their pronunciation of what they see.
Yoshito.
That I think sounds
Japanese person, yeah.
quite right. Or Yoshito.
Yoshito.
And then you have Yoshito, where you say, okay. Fact is, if you go here, you can record the pronunciation of this word name, in this case, in your own voice and play to listen to how you have pronounced it. So this is a nice activity to do with our children at home or at school. I must say that on this site, there are a lot of advertisements. They are very distracting. So I would not let children just go on that. They would just go on other sites. Another name is mine. So you have different ways to pronounce it.
Uda.
I would not know that someone is calling me when they say that.
Uda.
Or Uda.
Universal test equipment.
And so I surely am not a universal test equipment.
Ute.
Oh, Ute, I've been called that very much.
Uda.
And Uda. So I can go in and then I'm going to record how it's pronounced in the German way. Oh, Claudia, that's the name of my sister.
Claudia.
You have Claudia, yeah?
Claudia.
Claudia.
Claudia, it's more the Italian way to pronounce it.
Claudia.
And Claudia. So you can choose whether you want to be called in a more English way or in a more Italian way, if you wish. Then I have Stephanie, or this name. Sorry.
Stephanie.
Okay.
Stephanie.
And then you have Stephanie or the Stephanie in German, where you have not the st, but the st sound at the beginning. And then you have also the Spanish one, where you would say a Stephanie. You would add a vowel at the beginning, and then Stefano.
Stefano.
That's the Italian way to pronounce it.
Stefano.
As well.
Stefano.
And then you have the Stefano. Every time I hear Stefano, because you think it's an Italian name and you have to pronounce or to accentuate the second last syllable, it's actually not so with names.
Estefano.
Or the Spanish way, Estefano.
Stefano.
And Estefano again. So, and how to pronounce, that's another person I know.
Francesco.
This is how many English-speaking people call this name.
Francesco.
And this is a way that, it's the name of my son. And this is a way that one of his friends would pronounce it.
Francesco.
And this is me. I just decided, okay, I'm going to record how I call my son.
Francisco.
And Francisco is also a way. It's a little bit a mix between the Italian way to pronounce it and the Spanish way to pronounce it. So I think it's a nice way to play around with names and to listen a little bit on the different ways that they are pronounced, and to not take it too seriously. I know that sometimes we or our children get a little bit upset if people pronounce our names in a certain way. But this is a tool I find that where we can explore the different ways people might call us.
Yeah.
Like I said before, there was one way that my name was pronounced, or when I don't expect to be called that way, I might not respond. So I need to be prepared, or we can be prepared on how it could be done. Yeah, these were just, it's just a little suggestion on how to play around with names and maybe learn different ways to pronounce them.
Yeah. And so I remember once I attended a conference or meeting from the Language Friendly School that they do a lot of things to empower children in their schools and to diversify to make teacher aware of how to teach a diverse community. Mm-hmm. And I remember that there was one teacher talking about doing an activity when they were, so the children were teaching the class how to pronounce their name. I think it's a very good idea to make sure that the children have their say. They say, okay, this is how you pronounce my name. So for example, for Uta, there would be different people who think, okay, I pronounce it that way. But at least it's not reinforced by others. Mm-hmm. It's you say first, this is my name, and then the others would get it. Yeah. And I guess especially at the beginning of the year or for children, like children are quite shy when the teacher calls you in a certain way. It's difficult to say, and that's not how you pronounce my name. You need to pronounce it that way. And yes, I think it's a very nice way to start the year.
Yes. It's a very nice way, yes. And on the Language Friendly School site, it's languagefriendlyschool.org. You can find these activities actually for teachers in the membership area. They have a lot of these lessons on several things, and it's amazing activity to do, indeed. Shall I share, maybe for those who have older children or who want to avoid that their names as adults' names are mispronounced, maybe you have a LinkedIn profile. Shall I share quickly how to do that? I mean, it's not rocket science, but when I discovered this, I said, okay, I can at least lead people to a site where they can find out how to pronounce my name. So I don't have to repeat it every time, because sometimes you get a bit tired, or you feel it's not appropriate to tell people how to call me. So if you are on your LinkedIn profile, you see here is a little speaker, and here I have recorded my name. So I pronounce it very slowly because, well, one can play it over and over, but where you can insert it, if you have this LinkedIn profile, is go on this little pen and then name pronunciation. You can record your audio. If you don't like it, you put it in the basket, in the bin, and you can re-record it until you are happy, and then you save it, and voila, it's there. Okay?
Oh, so that leads me to a question. So here, LinkedIn is very public, and there is you recorded one way of pronouncing your name, but I know that, for example, I changed the way I pronounce my name when I introduce myself to people, depending on what language they're familiar with. So if it's a French person, I would say Yoshito Darmon Shimamori. But if it's an English person, Yoshito Darmon Shimamori. So I would pronounce it differently. So here I'm just thinking, how would I record it on here? Do I do it French way, Japanese way, English way?
I would either choose or record it in all different ways. You can say, okay, in English, it's this. In other languages, if you prefer, it's Yoshito. Because I remember also when you introduced yourself to me, you said Yoshito. And for years, I called you Yoshito until once then Tetsu, I think, was calling you Yoshito. And I said, oh my gosh, I didn't mispronounce your name for such a long time. But then you said, no, it's fine both ways. But still,
I think it's because we speak English, so that's why I say English way. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And I don't speak Japanese yet.
No, you speak French, so if we if we started speaking French, maybe I would have said it the French way.
You would have said Yoshito?
Yeah, Yoshito. So it's Yoshito in English, Yoshito in French.
Oui, avec l'accent sur le haut. Oui, Yoshito. C'est le Yoshito.
Ah oui.
C'est plutôt sur la dernière. Yes, but I think I would still call you in the way that that I used to call you also in the other languages. So there might be also ways, or I think there are international ways to pronounce our name that are less, are causing less problems across multiple cultures to pronounce. If they see the name, if, for example, a Japanese person sees your name, they recognize, oh, that's Yoshito. So the I is not pronounced, and you put the accent on the first vowel on O. But you need to know this if you are not Japanese. But once you know it, now I always now. Even today, when we met, I said, okay, how am I going to pronounce his name? It's Yoshito. Yeah. And I must say, once lately, I had a gathering and I was introduced to a lady and her name was very long and in another language. And she repeated it 3 times. There was a lot of background noise. And I asked her 3 times, actually, can you please repeat? I didn't get this. And she was like this. Yeah. Okay. Oh. This is what I heard. And I said, oh my gosh, it's long. And I had it in my mind. I had it. I knew how to write it, how to spell it. But some of the vowels were not pronounced. So I went back in my mind and I said, oh my gosh, which one was it now that it's not pronounced? And where is the accent again? So after 3 times, I was still struggling and I gave up because I said, this is now embarrassing for me and for her. Yeah. So for the rest of the evening, I just tried to make eye contact and just asked her things or was talking to her without repeating her name. But I think it was also a little bit a missed chance from both sides. So I was a bit embarrassed to ask for the 4th time because, I mean, it's really, are you stupid? You don't get my name after 3 times that I repeat it to you. But also a little bit on her side, maybe she didn't want me to struggle. So she said, oh, that's fine. Don't bother. But I need a name. So I need to know how to address a person. So that's also something to keep in mind if our name is maybe not so familiar in a certain context. To either come up with a solution like you have with Yoshito in different languages, or yes, just go with it. Yeah, exactly.
So I think so we can maybe summarize roughly the main ideas just to finish this live. And I hope our live is recorded because yeah, I hope I did it properly. But let's see. So I guess one of the things, important points is to first know ourselves, or our children need to know what variations we're okay with. And where's the limit? Where do we think for ourselves, this is not my name? Mm-hmm. And then to also be aware that not all the people are going to be able to pronounce our names as we wish, because they might be speaking another language and not be able to pronounce some of the sounds in our names. Mm-hmm. So I guess we need to be flexible in a way. And we talked as well about the activity that the Language Friendly School does, or that one teacher presented, where they give the opportunity to children to introduce themselves before they label them in a way. Mm. And what else did we talk about? The LinkedIn profile, that's quite useful, especially when we're adults or teenagers who are starting to create their profile to record their own names. Yes, and to try this site maybe that I shared. Maybe also practice a little bit the transcribing it with IPA, with International Phonetic Alphabet.
And yes, and then also it's really not so terrible if we asked 2, 3, 4 times a person on how to pronounce the name and maybe write it down again. And yes, at that example that I just made, it would have been helpful if I had a pen or something to write it down phonetically, to at least get part of the name. I got the beginning, but then the end I was blah, blah, blah. But in the end, okay, it's just how it is sometimes. Yeah. Anyway.
So yeah, so that was like a live we did because we wanted to make it a discussion, open to everyone to contribute as well. But normally, so from October, we're going to go back to the model where we talk about how to force our languages. So whether it's speaking, reading, or writing in a fun and compelling way. So generally, we base it on one main activity, and we can have different variations around, depending on the age of the children or what age. I think that's the variation. Yeah.
It's a variation mostly, yes, or the language proficiency of the child, then depending on the age. Sometimes it's maybe in another language, so they can be older but still starting to speak or to use the other language. So yes. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and so if you want to know also other activities that Uta and I have prepared, we have them displayed in our books. You have them with you?
I have them here. Just say the name. I hope I get the right one up.
So I see mine, so I'm going to start by mine. But the Parents Guide to Raising Multilingual Children,
Mm-hmm.
and yours that you wrote with Ana Elisa Miranda is the toolbox for multilingual families. So loads of activities to speak, read, and write home languages in a fun way, and you can find them on Amazon.
Yes.
Okay, so
That's
I
it.
guess we stop here for today.
Yes.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone, and enjoy your language.